Hello students, today I am going to complete chromosomal, try to complete the next subtopic in the chapter Principles of Inheritance and Variations, and that is chromosomal disorders. Before explaining chromosomal disorders, I want to explain the structure of hemoglobin. You know that hemoglobin consists of four chains, two alpha chain and two beta chain. And these chains, individual chain is present in 3D structure, and all of them four, when they associate, they form quaternary structure. Now each protein chain will have how many amino acids? So alpha chain has 141 amino acids. The beta chain has 146 amino acids. It's not 142, it is 146 amino acids. Now, within this chain, there is a ring structure called porphyrin, and at the center of that porphyrin, there will be iron atom. Okay, and it is oxygen that will directly bind to iron atom. Okay, and without bond oxygen, the oxidation state will be plus 2. Now, whatever explanation and whatever number of amino acids and the chains present in hemoglobin I have explained today, it is applicable for all those, even those previous classes wherever I have mentioned hemoglobin. It can be like sickle cell anemia. Okay. So this was a short note you can tell on structure of hemoglobin. Now next I'll be explaining about the remaining monogenic disorders. Okay. So before going into chromosomal disorders, I continue with certain remaining monogenic disorders. So other monogenic disorders. So other monogenic disorders are what? Which are mentioned in NCERT. Those monogenic disorders I will be taking today. First one is color blindness. So these remaining monogenic disorder I'll be taking in short. So in that, first one is color blindness. So what are the points which you should know in color blindness? Color blindness is X-linked recessive disease. It is an X-linked recessive disease. It means that the disease gene is present in the X chromosome, and the gene state is in which state? It is in a recessive state. You know that since it is similar to hemoglobin, the pattern of transmission from one generation to next generation is also similar to hemoglobin. What was the pattern of inheritance in hemoglobin? It was crisscross inheritance or zigzag pattern of inheritance was there in hemoglobin. The similar pattern will be present in color blindness. Okay. So the second point which you should know here in color blindness is the pattern of inheritance. That means the way in which it transmits from parents to offsprings, it is similar to hemoglobin, and that pattern is called crisscross pattern. It is also called zigzag pattern. You know already, you know about this crisscross pattern because to the previous classes I have told that father will transmit the disease directly to grandson and not son. Okay, through carrier daughter. So that itself is called as crisscross inheritance or zigzag pattern of inheritance. Then person cannot perceive the colors. He cannot see the colors. Why a person cannot see the colors? You know that retina will have cells like rod cells and cone cells. Rod cells are for twilight vision, whereas cone cells is for daylight vision, that is photopic vision. So rod cell, this is especially defective cone cells. So color blindness occurs due to defective cone cells. Okay. And defective cone cells, you know, there are three types of cone cells. One which are sensitive to red color, another is sensitive to green color, and the third one is sensitive to blue color. So the defective cone cells, one is for red, green, and blue. One for detection of red color, that means your eyes can see the red color. Another cones is for detection. When the stimulus is equal, then perception of white color comes, which you have studied already in the previous year. Now consider that a person's cone cells are defective, which will perceive red color. So automatically, what does it indicate? He cannot see red color. That means those cone cells that are sensitive to red color has damaged, and therefore that person cannot see red color. But he can see green color as well as blue color. Okay, and this condition is called as protanopia, a type of color blindness where red cannot be observed. So whatever the objects are there, which are red or red apple, those all cannot be perceived. Color cannot be perceived. Okay. Then suppose the cone cells which are green in color gets damaged. In that case, person cannot see green color, but he can still see red color and blue color. It is called as a. Whereas in case the cone cells which are responsible for perceiving blue color, if that will get damaged, then person cannot see blue color, but he can see the red and green. It's called as tritanopia. Likewise, therefore, because of this defective cone cells, the different types of color blindness can occur: protanopia, deuteranopia, and monochromatism. Monochromatism means he cannot see any of the colors, neither red, nor green, nor blue. So everything will be in black and white or gray shades. Okay. So it was first identified by this disease was studied by John Dalton. Okay. Then coming to its genotype, I will explain in brief since these diseases are not detailed in NCERT, so I will explain in brief. So if you check the genotype of color blindness in female, I explain first. So X and X, suppose this is a normal female because she does not have any recessive gene which is present on the X chromosome, so she is normal female. Now there is a second female where there is a defective gene, small c I have written here. Okay, or I'll write it here, small c. A recessive disease gene is located on the X chromosome. In only one of the X chromosome, other X chromosome is normal. So such type of individuals are called carriers. Now the third type of female is where both the X chromosome carries the recessive color blindness gene. In that case, she is affected with color blindness. Now you can also see male is present in hemizygous condition. It means only one X chromosome is there. So X and Y, these two are the allosomes present in male. In that, how many X chromosome a male has? Only directly separate. So there is no carriers in the male. Okay. So because there is one, if suppose the disease gene occurs, he becomes color blindness. So because of this hemizygous condition, because of presence of only one X chromosome or hemizygous condition, color blindness occurs more common in male compared to female. And the reason is carrier females, if they exist, one normal X chromosome is there. Again, carriers, the symptoms will be very milder. Okay. So this was some of the what do you call additional monogenic disorders apart from the other three explained in the previous class. Now, a problem can be now take a problem. A colorblind man, so you're representing thalassomes like this, marries a carrier woman. Carrier woman means one X chromosome is normal, another X chromosome carries the disease gene, recessive disease gene. Now, in this case, what are the proportions of offspring suffering with the disease called color blindness? Now, the type of gametes produced by this, for convenience, you can round up the gametes. There are two types of sperms formed by this male. And by this female, there are two types of ovums formed. One is the one carrying the normal X chromosome, another carrying. So this is diploid, and gametes will be haploid. And two type of gametes here, and two type of gametes here. Now combination. Now this one, either you can, one of the easiest method is directly put it in a Punnett square, which could be easy. When the number of gametes increases, one of the foolproof way of jotting down the genotypes of offspring is what we call the Punnett square. So here the male and the female gametes, X and X, and X back. So if combination is done, then what is the proportion of offspring? Like this. Then how do you read it? Out of the total offsprings, okay. 50% male, 50% female. Out of that, 50% of the female are carrier. And 15% of the male are suffering with color blindness. Another 50% of the male are normal. So it means out of the total 100%, 25% are normal female, 25% are normal male, 25% of them are female carriers, and 25% of them are male sufferers for color blindness. So likewise, any changes made here, suppose a normal man marries to the carrier woman, or an affected woman marries to a normal man, then even those problems have been worked out in a similar way. The next monogenic disorder, it is called thalassemia. It's called as thalassemia, related to defective hemoglobin. So here what happens, you know that hemoglobin again has sulfine and it has beta chain. Okay. Now hemoglobin chain becomes defective. Becomes defective. The hemoglobin chain becomes defective in type, and the beta chain located in chromosome 11 If the gene located on chromosome 16 becomes defective, then he will suffer with the thalassemia called alpha thalassemia. And if beta chains become defective, then the person will suffer with a disease called beta thalassemia. Depending on what is affected, whether alpha chain is affected or beta chain is affected, it can either be called as alpha thalassemia or beta thalassemia. But what is noted when, see here, even sickle cell anemia is a hemoglobin defect, and even thalassemia is the hemoglobin defect. What is the main difference in thalassemia and sickle cell anemia is, in sickle cell anemia, there is qualitative defect. It means that there is no, the entire chain structure and all is not affected. Okay, only a single point mutation is affected. So it is a qualitative defect. Whereas in case of thalassemia, the amount of the hemoglobin may change based upon the amount of alpha chain and beta chain. So what is thalassemia is? It is a quantitative disorder, or it is a quantitative trait. Okay, quantitative disorder rather than telling us qualitative. So sickle cell anemia is a qualitative disorder, whereas thalassemia is a quantitative disorder. So this is about the thalassemia. Okay. Now, what is the, you know that the symptom of color blindness is nothing but not perceiving the color. But what is the symptom of thalassemia? Since hemoglobin is becoming defective, anemia will be the problem, fatigue will be a problem, and of course, jaundice, associated jaundice can also be a problem, and splenomegaly and hepatomegaly, it means that swelling of spleen and liver is one of the symptoms in thalassemia. But if the, how many alleles? Because each gene present in 16 chromosome have their own alleles. Depending on how many alleles become defective, that the seriousness of the disease lies. So if one allele becomes defective, seriousness is comparatively less. But when all the alleles will become defective, then such person will die in childhood. Early death occurs. Okay. So therefore, to that extent that okay, fetus, at the fetus level, it is lethal or it is fatal or dangerous when many number of alleles are affected. So thalassemia. Okay, then what kind of disease it is? Since you know it is chromosome 16 and 11, it is an autosome and it is also a recessive disorder. So it is autosomal recessive disorder. Autosomal recessive disorder, it is called. Okay, so this was about the next monogenic disorder called thalassemia. Next is cystic fibrosis. As you read the name, cyst formation, fluid-filled sacs, and fibrosis, accumulation of connective tissue, and replacing the replacement of the fibrous connective tissue with that of the normal tissue present in an organ. So cystic fibrosis. This is autosomal linked recessive disorder. This is an autosomal linked recessive disorder because again, and I need not repeat it again and again, because this gene is located in an autosome and is in a recessive state. Now, defect lies in, the gene lies in chromosome 7. And the gene that gets defected is CFTR gene. Now, it basically affects epithelial cells. Now, where the epithelial lining will be there, whichever system has an epithelial lining, that can get affected. And you know that epithelial cells will have covering of mucus. So this is suppose an epithelial layer, and epithelial layer will have covering of mucus. Okay. So here the epithelial cells will be covered by mucus. So wherever mucus membrane is there and wherever epithelial cells are there, that is the region where the people where it is affected, where this disease will start bringing its effect. So this is the what happens here. The cell membrane of epithelial cells will have a transporter, chloride transporter, which is nothing but CFTR it is called. This will pump the chlorine outside. So it will help in ion transport so that normal ion concentration is maintained. Now that becomes defective means chlorine cannot be pumped out. Remember, under normal individual, when chlorine is pumped here, also comes the sodium. Okay, so sodium chloride becomes, so it is a salt. When salt concentration is more, it will attract water in the mucus and the mucus becomes thin. Thin means more dilute or thin it becomes. Okay. But when chlorine is not reaching into outside the epithelial cells, into this mucus, what happens is even the water is not accumulated. As a result, the mucus becomes thicker and thicker. And whenever the mucus becomes thicker, it will start obstructing air passages. So air passages in which organ? In the lungs. Or it can also affect duct of pancreas. Duct of what? Pancreas can be affected. What happens here in duct of pancreas? So this is the duct and this is the pancreas. Here also there will be epithelial lining. When mucus will get accumulated more and more, this duct will be blocked. When it is blocked, then no digestive enzymes can be released in the duodenum. As a result, digestion can be significantly affected. That is, digestion of carbohydrates, digestion of proteins, as well as lipids can be significantly affected because of blockage of pancreatic duct. And back in the reproductive system, what happens is there is an epithelial lining, there is a mucous membrane. So continuous accumulation of very thick mucus can cause an atrophy of vas deferens. Okay, damage of the vas deferens. As a result, it can lead to again, uh, it can affect what transport of the sperms. Okay, and this will ultimately again lead to inability to produce children. So this was about the cystic fibrosis due to mutation of CFTR gene. Another is the sweat of the individual who is suffering with cystic fibrosis will have very high salt concentration. So when the sweat is released on surface of the skin, the extra sodium will be taken back by the body by epithelial cells. But now those epithelial cells have defective CFTR, they can't take back the chlorine present in the sweat, and of course, consequently, even sodium. In that case, what happens is the sweat is too much salty. Okay, so that is some of the signs of this people who are suffering with cystic fibrosis. Cystic fibrosis is common among the European population. It's not common in most of the other populations, but it's common in the European populations. So this was about, this completes the monogenic, some of the important monogenic disorders. Now I will continue with the next topic, chromosomal disorders. Chromosomal disorders, three main disorders I'll be explaining. One is the Down syndrome, another is Turner syndrome, and another is Klinefelter syndrome. Now, what is chromosomal disorders? Those disorders where there is a change in structure of chromosome or there is a change in number of chromosomes. So this will be also called as chromosomal aberrations. Okay, and also you should know that chromosomal aberrations are common in cancer cells. So change is chromosome. Why do chromosomal disorder occurs? There are two main reasons. One is aneuploidy. This is the main reason for chromosomal disorders. What is aneuploidy? Presence of extra chromosome or absence of chromosome, missing chromosomes later. So together, how you can write is 2n plus or minus 1, or you can tell 2n plus or minus 2. These two conditions are referring to nothing but aneuploidy. One of the main reasons why aneuploidy occurs, why there is an extra chromosome is non-disjunction. Okay, non-disjunction of chromosomes. So what is non-disjunction? So understand a disjunction mean. What is a non-disjunction mean? You should understand what is disjunction. That's all. So you all know that during metaphase, the chromosomes arrange themselves so in this cell. This is the metaphase plate, equatorial plate, or a metaphase plate it is. So and the chromosomes arrange in this metaphasic plate. Got? This will be called as what? Metaphase. And if it is meiosis, it will be metaphase 1 and metaphase 2. Now, after metaphase comes the next phase. It is called as anaphase. In anaphase, what happens? Separation of either homologous chromosomes, if it is meiosis, or chromatids, if it is. Okay. Homologous chromosomes separate in meiosis 1, whereas chromatids separate in meiosis 2. And here in mitosis, only the chromatids will get separated. Now, this chromosome will be moving in opposite poles. Moving in opposite poles. Like this. They move in opposite. This movement of chromosomes or separation of chromosome, you can tell, or you can tell segregation of chromosome, itself is called as disjunction. Okay. So what you should know is separation is junction, disjunction. Segregation and the same thing you can repeat for the other also. Separation is disjunction or segregation, because separation is nothing but segregation. Segregation is disjunction. But why chromosomal disorder occurs is non-disjunction, means not separating properly. When they don't separate correctly, then what happens? Uneven distribution of chromosome occurs, and one cell gets more and another cell gets less. And this disjunction especially will be referring to what? So it can be during meiosis or after cleavage, that is once the zygote is formed. Okay. Also some differences can occur in the division. So non-disjunction means what? Suppose this chromosome will not separate correctly and instead both the chromosomes will go to one of the daughter cells. Then what happens? One extra chromosome comes to one of the daughter cells, whereas one less chromosome will be there in case of the other daughter cells. So therefore what happens? Plus or minus 1. Or at the same time, the other chromosomes also may not separate properly. In that case, it will be plus or minus 2. And therefore, it is called as non-disjunction of chromosome. So directly you should know what is disjunction. Disjunction is separation. When in which stage separation occurs, disjunction occurs, anaphase, whether it is meiosis or cleavage. So here, separation is failure of separation of chromosome normally itself is nothing but non-disjunction of chromosome. Because of this non-disjunction of chromosome itself, aneuploidy occurs, and because of aneuploidy only, which disorders will occur? Chromosomal disorders will occur because of aneuploidy. So this is about non-disjunction of chromosomes. So you can add this. Most of the chromosomal disorder occurs due to non-disjunction of chromosomes. Non-disjunction of, that means during separation. Okay. Especially it can be during meiosis or zygote. That means the cells of the zygote are indeterminate still. So any defect in the division of the cell could affect further add to developmental defects. So this is the introduction about chromosomal disorders. Next is the first chromosomal disorder. It's called Down's syndrome. So what is Down syndrome? It is a chromosomal disorder. Okay, a defect in the chromosome. Now, Professor Langdon Down identified it first. Name of the scientist who identified it first, Langdon Down. So, why this will occur? Why this particular disease will occur in an individual? This will occur in an individual if there is presence of extra 21st chromosome. So, in this disease, the 21st chromosome extra is there. That means 21st chromosome is extra. For that, you should keep it in mind again. Karyotype of humans. Okay. In that, first chromosome pair, second chromosome pair, like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, like that, 21st. And the 22nd. And 23rd will be what? The X chromosome and Y chromosome. Now here 21st, instead of normal one pair, one more extra 21st chromosome is there. That means the total number of 21st chromosome in Down syndrome is 3 instead of normal 2. So what does it mean? There are three 21st chromosome. Okay, that means trisomy is there. This condition of aneuploidy where an extra chromosome is present along with the homologous pair, then that condition is called as trisomy. Now, what is trisomy? Three chromosomes instead of normal two. So it is a trisomy of all chromosome or only 21st chromosome. It is a trisomy of only 21st chromosome. Whereas first one pair is normal, second pair is normal. All the pairs of chromosomes are normal except for 21st chromosome. Instead of normal 2, there are 3. So therefore it is also called 21st trisomy. Again to tell, homologous pairs normal. If one is there, monosomy. If three are there, trisomy. If four are there, tetrasomy. If nothing is there, nullisomy. So those conditions of aneuploidy already have taught in the previous classes. So 21st trisomy. So people who suffer with Down syndrome will have a typical look of a mongoloid race. This is also called mongoloid idiocy. Mongoloid idiocy it is called. It is also called G trisomy because this 21st chromosome belongs to, so I told you 8 G groups are there. So this 21st chromosome belongs to G group. So it is also called G trisomy. The A is the first group and G is the last group. So 21st chromosome, G trisomy. That's what it's called also as G trisomy. Why? Reason I have already given. Aneuploidy or non-disjunction of chromosomes. Majority of the chromosomal disorders will be due to non-disjunction of chromosomes as well as aneuploidy. Now, how these Down syndrome children become common? If the children are born from an aged mother, okay, mother age, the egg quality would not be good. As a result, ovum, the defective ovum along with the age. So, if the age of the mother is too high, then her ovum will be defective. As a result, the children born will be having Down syndrome. So, aged mothers generally produce an offspring that is suffering with Down's syndrome. Down syndrome. This is one point. And next, finally coming to certain symptoms. So Down syndrome will exhibit, people who are suffering with Down syndrome will exhibit certain symptoms. Now before that, you should know how is the chromosomal complement, which is also called chromosomal condition. Okay. Karyotype, wherever 21st chromosome is there instead of 2, 3 chromosomes. That is the karyotype. And if I say chromosomal complement, how many autosomes are there in a human? 44 autosomes. Plus, female will have how much normally? X and X. And how about male? Normal male will be 44 autosomes and 1 X chromosome and 1 male. Now you know that 21st chromosome is extra. So instead of 44, what will be the chromosomal complement of Down syndrome or chromosomal condition in the Down syndrome? It will be 45. Here also it is going to be 45. So this is the chromosomal condition or complement of which patients Down syndrome. Then how many total number of chromosomes will be present as a result? 45, 46, 47. So therefore, a total of 47 chromosomes will be present in people who are suffering with Down syndrome instead of normal 46. So it is 2n plus 1 condition. A total of 47 chromosomes present. A total of 47 chromosomes. But this also you can represent as what? 2n plus 1, because in human already 2n is 46. So 46 plus 1 is equal to 47. So 2n plus 1. So this was about Down syndrome. Next, symptoms of Down syndrome. Now next is symptoms of Down syndrome. So symptom is short stature. People who are suffering with Down syndrome, they will be shorter in height. Short personality. Short stature. The face is round, so it's called a moon face. Head is smaller and also round. Head is more smaller and round. Nose ridge is broad. There are other broad nose ridge. That means the elevated nose ridge won't be there. Rather, a flat and broad nose ridge will be there, which is resembling the features of mongoloid race. So here, mouth usually always open. Mouth is kept partially open, not totally open. Partially opened. And all the time the mouth is going to be partially open. From the partially open mouth, even the tongue will protrude slightly outside. So that is protrusion of the tongue. And always the mouth opens as if they have a tendency to breathe through the mouth. That way. So your mouth partially open and protruding tongue. And the IQ is supposed to be, mental retardedness is there. Difficulty in learning. So that means very low IQ will be there, and there's a mental retardedness. And learning physical movements also becomes difficult, and social skills, all those will be affected because of mental retardation. Furrowed tongue. Now, tongue is furrowed, it means that the tongue is not smooth, it has a lot of fissures there on the tongue. Like that, the tongue has a lot of fissures. Okay, it is not smooth, so furrowed tongue is supposed to be present. And there is abnormal pancreas. Abnormal pancreas. You know that the palm has typically, say, 3 lines like that. So, but the pancreas of Down syndrome will be totally abnormal. It means that, say, palm is there of the child. So only feel like a seaming line, only one line is supposed to be there, which appears very abnormal. So abnormal pantry. The lines that appear on the palm is abnormal in case of people who are suffering with Down syndrome. So abnormal palm crease. So physical defect, movement defect, physical movement defect, understanding, mental ability, all that psychomotor uh, uh, functionalities will be affected. So this was about syndrome identified by Langdon Down. The next is Turner's syndrome. The next syndrome we are studying is Turner's syndrome. What is Turner? Named after the scientist. So this is named after the scientist who has found it out. And it is nothing but Henry Turner. Syndrome is nothing but a group of symptoms. Group of similar kind of symptoms will be there. Whoever suffers with more or less the similar symptoms will be there for all those who suffer with the syndromes. Similar kind of symptoms are called as syndromes. So Turner syndrome. Turner syndrome identified by Henry Turner. Okay. So what is this? In Turner syndrome, affects the female. So this is the syndrome that is usually affecting the female. And in this, there is absence of one of the X chromosome. You know that X chromosome is what? Allosome it is. It is also called as sex chromosome. So absence of one of the X chromosomes. So say a woman has how many chromosomes? Two X chromosomes. In that, if one is missing and only one is remaining, we say that she is suffering with Turner's syndrome. So now you know X chromosome is nothing but what? Sex chromosome. And what is sex chromosome? It's called as allosomes. Okay. Now normal is what? This one, homologous pair. If one is missing, monosomy. If extra is there, trisomy. Tetrasomy. Nothing is there, nullisomy. So here it is sex chromosome monosomy or allosomal monosomic condition. It's called as sex chromosome monosomy. Why it occurs, I have already given reason priorly itself. I have given the main reasons for chromosomal disorders, aneuploidy and non-disjunction of chromosomes. Now, sex chromosome monosomy. Now, next, what I'll be telling is what is the chromosome causes, aneuploidy as well as general is one of the aneuploidy, and aneuploidy is again due to non-disjunction of chromosomes. That is the causes for this Turner's syndrome. Now, total, what is the chromosome complement then? The chromosome complement will be what? 44A plus XX in case of normal female. Now here, absence of one of the X chromosome. So one of the X chromosome is absent in that woman. As a result, it becomes what? XO. O is nothing. So this is the chromosomal complement or chromosomal condition of the Turner's syndrome picture. So now the total number of chromosomes will be what? Chromosome in Turner's will be 45. The individual, when a karyotyping is done, and if the chromosome number are counted, it will come up to only 45. Because one of the chromosomes, that is X chromosome, is missing. So this is also inequality condition referred as 2n minus 1. That is 46 minus 1 is 45. So this was about the explanation regarding the Turner's syndrome. Next will be the symptoms of the Turner's syndrome. Symptoms of Turner's syndrome. The first symptoms of Turner's, some of the main symptoms of Turner's syndrome. Here, both X chromosomes are useful to develop a normal reproductive system. Say, certain gene products of this X chromosome are useful for normal development of ovary and its other structures. Now, because one of the X chromosome is missing, this will lead to rudimentary ovary of an individual. So, she will have rudimentary ovary. A rudimentary ovary is nothing but non-functional ovary. Why we say rudimentary? Because this ovary cannot perform the normal function. When it cannot perform the normal function, we say it is a rudimentary ovary. Why? As a consequence of absence of one of the X chromosome, the ovary becomes rudimentary. Now comes the various consequences as a result. So when the ovary is rudimentary, as a result of this, there will be decreased estrogen concentration. This is the hormone. This is the main hormone that is secreted by ovary. So when ovary itself is rudimentary, then the estrogen concentration is supposed to be less in those, supposed to be very low or very decreased in case of those who are having Turner syndrome. It cannot be absolutely absent because it's presence of one of the X chromosomes. So the estrogen concentration is going to be very low. Decrease in what sense? Low here. Low estrogen concentration. And in the first chapter, you already studied that when estrogen is less, then what happens? There is no secondary sexual character developed because most of the secondary sexual character during puberty in the female is due to estrogen. And now, by birth, it's a chromosomal disorder. So by birth, there is always low levels of estrogen. So that is not going to encourage secondary sexual character. So that is not going to support the formation of secondary sexual character. So as a result comes consequence called absence of secondary sexual characters. Now, what is the secondary sexual characters? Pelvic bone becomes more broader, but here it does not become broader, and the breast will be underdeveloped, and the chest will be broad and shielded, and will also have web. So one of the and development of pubic hair and uh, other hairs developed during secondary sexual characters are not normal here in this case because of decreased estrogen concentration. So there is absence of secondary sexual characters. Okay. So then, because of which, again, ultimately, what can be affected? Sterility will be there. That means you cannot. The person who is suffering with Chromosomal cannot produce children. Okay. But again, it is not infertility. If it was infertility, then the problem could have been solved by assisted reproductive technology. It is sterility means even though by use of assisted reproductive technology also, they cannot produce children. That is the problem. If they, by whichever techniques, if they are not able to produce children, that is called as sterility. But with certain techniques, if children are able to be produced, then it is called infertility. So these people are sterile. Okay, at no cost they are able to produce. They are not at all able to produce children, not at all able to produce children. Then pituitary is normal. Pituitary is going to mental retardedness is there only very slightly. So low level of intelligence is there, but serious mental retardation is not there. So intelligence is affected, of course. In majority of the chromosomal disorders, intelligence is supposed to be affected. So there is a sterility, inability to produce offspring. Okay, and then intelligence can be low. Okay, that is also one of the reasons. But there can be high FSH, gonadotropins like FSH. When gonadotropins are normal and at high level, they are going to bind to target organ ovary in order to induce to produce estrogen. But ovary itself has become rudimentary, so what cannot be produced is estrogen cannot be produced. Okay. So FSH can be still high. Now other symptoms include webbed neck. So skin folds will occur near the neck. So if suppose this is the normal neck present in an individual, a webbed neck will be very broad along with the folds of the skin. So that is a webbed neck is present. Typically they will have a webbed neck. And also their stature will be short. They won't be a tall woman, but their stature will be short. Short stature. Then shielded chest. Box-like chest is called as shielded chest. So very much box-like chest, typically different from the normal rib cage. That will be shielded chest, etc. These are some of the symptoms associated with the Turner's syndrome. So this completes Turner's syndrome, which involves absence of one of the explanations. Then the last chromosomal disorder which I will be taking is nothing but the Klinefelters. So today what you came to know is the extra monogenic disorder I have discussed. Apart from the regular like phenylketonuria, sickle cell anemia, and hemophilia, other monogenic disorders I have discussed today is about the thalassemia, the cystic fibrosis, as well as uh, uh, cystic fibrosis, thalassemia, as well as color blindness. Then I continued with chromosomal disorder. In chromosomal disorder, I have discussed two of the chromosomal disorder, that is Down syndrome as well as Turner's syndrome. The last syndrome, that is Klinefelter syndrome, I'll discuss in the next class.